When the night settles and the world fades into stillness, there's a quiet space between wakefulness and sleep, a sacred doorway where your heart can truly meet Allah. In that calm before your eyes close, what you choose to say determines how your soul rests. It's more than words. It's a connection, a surrender, a returning home after a long day of distractions. Every night becomes a chance to be rewritten, renewed, and wrapped in divine mercy. Because when you end your day remembering Him, you don't just fall asleep. You fall into peace, into protection, into the presence of the one who never sleeps. There is a sacred silence that falls when the world finally drifts into rest. The city lights dim, conversations fade, and even the hum of life seems to quiet. Yet in that stillness there is one sound that does not sleep, the whisper of the heart calling out to its creator. It's in those late hours, when no one sees and no one hears, that the soul begins to speak its truest language, longing. When the world sleeps, distractions fade. The masks you wore all day of strength, of composure, of certainty, gently slip away. You're left only with your bare heart, fragile and unguarded before Allah. And it's in that vulnerability that you find something priceless, honesty. You no longer pretend to be okay. You simply are. You no longer search for words. You just breathe His name. The night is not a pause in life. It's a doorway. It's Allah's way of inviting you to step away from noise and return to nearness. Each heartbeat becomes diya, each breath a quiet surrender. The darkness that once frightened you begins to feel soft, gentle, safe. Because in the night you are not unseen. You are seen by the one who never sleeps, who never forgets, who always waits. There's something sacred about being awake when the world rests. It's a secret meeting between the soul and its Lord. You sit beneath the sky, eyes tired, heart heavy, and yet peace descends. You realize that you're not alone in the night. Every tear that falls is counted, every whisper heard. The silence is not empty, it's filled with divine presence. The heart that calls in the night is the heart that refuses to give up. It may ache, it may tremble, it may not even know what to ask for, but it still turns toward Allah. That turning is worship. That small movement of the soul toward remembrance is what makes you beloved to Him. It is not perfection that He loves, it's persistence. When the world sleeps, faith comes alive. You begin to understand that the beauty of this moment isn't in getting everything you ask for, but in knowing you are being heard. You stop chasing answers and start resting in the act of asking. You stop demanding outcomes and start falling in love with the conversation itself, the one between you and the one who knows your heart better than you do. In the quiet of the night, everything feels different. The pain that felt unbearable in the daylight softens beneath His mercy. The confusion that clouded your thoughts clears in the simplicity of prayer. You begin to see that the night is not darkness, it's a veil, one that hides you from the world so that Allah can draw you closer to Him. The beauty of these moments is not in their rarity, but in their sincerity. There's no audience, no applause, only intimacy. You don't have to be eloquent. Your silence is enough. You don't have to be strong. Your tears are enough. Allah doesn't need your perfection. He just wants your presence. When you show up in the stillness, He meets you there. Every call made in the night echoes in eternity. The Prophet, peace be upon him, described the last third of the night as a time when Allah descends to the lowest heaven, calling out to His servants, asking who will call upon Him so He may answer. Imagine that, while the world sleeps, your Creator is waiting, asking, longing for your voice. That is love in its purest form. The night reveals who you are when no one is watching. It strips away the layers built by the world and exposes the essence of your soul. You begin to understand that faith is not about loudness, it's about depth. It's about those quiet moments when your lips barely move but your heart screams His name. That's where transformation begins. When you speak to Allah in the night, you start to see your pain differently. You begin to understand that the storms of your life were not signs of abandonment. They were invitations to this very moment. Allah sometimes allows the day to exhaust you so the night can revive you. He allows the world to disappoint you so He can be the one to fulfill you. The heart that calls in the night is a heart that remembers its home. This world may offer comfort, but only remembrance gives peace. Each time you raise your hands, each time you whisper His name, you are returning to the one who shaped your soul, who wrote your story, who listens even when you can't find the words. And so the night becomes your refuge. You begin to love its silence, its solitude, its softness. You no longer fear the dark because you found the light within it. The heart that was restless in the noise of the day finds serenity in the quiet of remembrance. What once felt like loneliness now feels like presence. You realize with time that the night's call is not just a habit, it's healing. It's where you gather your scattered pieces, where you wash your heart clean with tears, where you rediscover your purpose. Each night becomes a renewal, a reminder that no matter how far you drifted, you can always return. The night is never too dark for the light of Allah's mercy to find you. And when the dawn finally comes, you rise different, lighter, calmer, grateful. The world wakes, unaware of the secret that just unfolded between you and your Lord, but your heart knows. It carries the peace of remembrance into the day. Because when the world sleeps but the heart still calls, it is not just the night that awakens, it is the soul. There are moments in life when the world grows still, not because everything is perfect, but because Allah wants to speak to your heart. In that quiet, when the noise fades and the distractions dissolve, there lies a gentle invitation. It's not shouted, it's whispered. It doesn't demand attention. It softly calls. It's the kind of call you only hear when your soul has grown tired of running, when you finally stop searching outside and start listening within. The quiet is not emptiness, it's presence. It's where Allah reminds you that silence is not the absence of His voice, but the space where it becomes most clear. You realize that the quiet isn't there to isolate you. It's there to reintroduce you to yourself and through that to Him. In a world obsessed with noise and movement, His mercy is found in the stillness that asks you to simply be. When life slows down, when conversations fade, when even your own thoughts fall silent, that's not coincidence. That's Allah inviting you closer. He strips away the distractions not to punish you, but to create space for remembrance. Because sometimes the only way the heart can truly hear Him is when everything else has been muted. It's in those quiet pauses that your soul begins to breathe again. You start to feel what you couldn't feel before. The weight of your distance, the beauty of your return. The quiet becomes a mirror, reflecting what was hidden beneath your busyness. You start to see the layers you've built, fears, attachments, pride, and realize they were never meant to define you. They were just noise covering your truth. The gentle invitation hidden in the quiet is not about doing more. It's about being more aware. It's Allah saying, "Come back to me." Not through effort, but through stillness. You don't need to shout your prayers. Your sighs are heard. You don't need to prove your worth. Your longing is enough. The quiet becomes a sanctuary, a place where His mercy feels tangible, where His nearness feels real. You begin to realize that peace is not found in escaping the world, but in returning to Allah within it. The quiet doesn't mean detachment from life. It means anchoring yourself in something deeper than it. It's the kind of peace that doesn't depend on silence around you, but silence within you. You find it when your heart surrenders and your soul whispers, "I'm here, my Lord." Every quiet moment carries an opportunity for remembrance. The pause between thoughts, the breath between words, the stillness between tasks, all of them are doorways. The question is whether we walk through them. Because Allah doesn't just call in the storms, He calls in the softest winds. The real miracle isn't that He speaks, it's that He speaks so gently, we have to still our hearts to hear. The quiet reveals what the noise was hiding, your need for Him. You start to notice that what once seemed like loneliness is actually divine intimacy. The stillness you feared becomes your comfort. You stop trying to fill silence with sound and start filling it with dhikr. And suddenly what once felt empty becomes full of remembrance, full of peace, full of Him. Sometimes Allah brings you into seasons of quiet not to distance you, but to prepare you. He knows the noise of the world has dulled your hearing, so He places you in silence, not as punishment, but as protection. He shields you from distractions so your heart can realign. What looks like delay is actually design. What feels like pause is divine preparation. In that silence, you rediscover trust. You realize you don't have to see movement to believe in progress. Allah works in unseen ways, not always through answers, but through alignment. Your prayers don't have to echo loudly, they only need to be sincere. In the quiet, you learn that faith is not proven by noise but by consistency, the gentle persistence of a heart that keeps remembering. The quiet is where healing begins. It's where the wounds that words couldn't touch start to close. You may not understand how, but somehow the stillness starts to soothe what once seemed unbearable. The same heart that was restless finds rhythm again. It learns that healing doesn't come from escaping pain, but from sitting with it, in remembrance, in trust, in surrender. There's a sweetness in the quiet that only the faithful heart can taste. It's the sweetness of knowing that you are seen even when unseen, loved even when alone, guided even when lost. Allah's mercy doesn't always come as miracles you can see. Sometimes it comes as peace you can feel, and that peace, subtle, steady, sacred, is His response to your unspoken prayers. You'll find that the more you accept the quiet, the more you crave it. Not because you want to escape the world, but because you've tasted something purer than it. The remembrance that fills your silence becomes your refuge. You start seeking moments alone, not out of isolation, but out of intimacy, because the quiet has become the place where you meet the one who never leaves. And when you finally learn to listen deeply, you'll realize that the quiet was never empty. It was filled with His call, softly repeating what your heart was always meant to hear: return to me. That's the invitation hidden in stillness, a love that waits patiently for you to hear it, a mercy that never stops calling, no matter how far you've wandered. So the next time life slows, when silence feels heavy and stillness feels strange, don't run from it. Sit with it. Listen. Beneath that quiet, your Lord is waiting, not with demands or conditions, but with gentleness, the kind that doesn't shout your name, but whispers it in a way that only your heart can recognize. Because sometimes, the loudest call of love is the one spoken in silence. The night comes not as an end, but as a mercy. When the noise of the world fades and the rush of daylight dissolves, Allah sends the night as a gentle refuge for the weary soul. It is in these quiet hours that the heart finds what it lost: rest, stillness, remembrance. The darkness that once felt heavy now feels soft, like a blanket of divine compassion wrapping around the soul that has carried too much. As the stars appear, they whisper a truth that daylight often hides, that you were never meant to carry everything alone. Every worry, every wound, every disappointment was meant to lead you back to Him. The night teaches you to release what the day forced you to hold. It becomes a time not for striving but for surrender. You don't need to fix anything, you just need to let your heart exhale in His presence. The beauty of the night lies in its quiet honesty. When the world sleeps, pretenses fall away. You don't have to smile, perform, or explain. You can simply be broken, tired, real. Allah doesn't need your perfection. He meets you exactly as you are. The tears you hide from others become pearls of prayer. The heaviness in your chest becomes the offering that draws His mercy closer. The Prophet, peace be upon him, spoke of the last third of the night as a time when Allah calls out to His servants, asking, "Who is seeking forgiveness that I may forgive him?" Imagine that, while the world sleeps, your Creator is awake, waiting for your voice. The night, then, is not just darkness. It is divine dialogue, a secret meeting between a longing heart and a loving Lord. The weight of the day doesn't disappear on its own. It melts in the remembrance of Allah. Every tasbih whispered before sleep is like water washing over the dust of your thoughts. Every verse recited is light dissolving the heaviness of the soul. The night cleanses not just your mind, but your memory, reminding you that the past is forgiven, the present is guided, and the future is in His hands. The night's silence is healing. In its stillness, you begin to hear what the noise of the day drowned out, the steady beat of your own heart calling His name. You realize that peace isn't something you find outside yourself. It's something you remember within. Allah placed it there long ago, and each night He invites you to rediscover it. You may enter the night burdened, but you do not leave it the same. The prayers whispered in exhaustion are carried by angels, the tears wiped away by faith. There's a reason the heart softens at night. It's closest to its truth then. Away from distractions, it finally admits its need for Him. That admission isn't weakness, it's the beginning of healing. Every sigh that escapes you in the night is heard. Every breath of surrender, every wordless plea, all of it reaches Him. Allah does not ignore a heart that seeks Him in silence. The night is proof of that. Its purpose is not just to rest your body, but to revive your soul. It is the sacred pause between exhaustion and renewal. In the light of day, you fight to survive. In the depth of night, you learn to trust. The day tests your patience. The night restores your faith. It's Allah's rhythm, a divine balance between effort and ease. Through the cycle, He reminds you that rest is also worship, that healing happens in surrender, and that even in your stillness, He is near. When you lay your head down after a heavy day, know that you are not alone in your weariness. The same one who guided you through the chaos of the day now watches over you in the calm of the night. Every ache you carried finds its place at His feet. You don't have to speak, He already knows. You only have to return. The night teaches patience. You cannot rush dawn. It comes only when Allah wills it. So too does healing. The night becomes your teacher in trust, showing you that light always follows darkness, that relief always follows difficulty. You learn to stop demanding immediate clarity and start finding beauty in waiting under the stars. As you lie in the quiet, you begin to notice the small miracles of the night, the steady rhythm of breath, the warmth of safety, the softness of surrender. You realize that even in your pain, there's mercy. Even in your exhaustion, there's love. The night doesn't erase your struggles, but it reframes them, turning burden into belonging and chaos into calm. The moonlight carries its own message that you can still shine even after being surrounded by darkness. Its glow reminds you that faith doesn't need certainty to exist, only trust. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but the one who holds tomorrow has already written it with mercy. That knowing is enough. The night cleanses you from the inside out. The same way wudu purifies your body, remembrance purifies your heart. You begin to feel lighter, not because your circumstances have changed, but because your heart has. You no longer carry the day's worries into your sleep. You hand them over to the one who never sleeps. Some nights the healing is loud, tears, prayer, prostration. Other nights it's quiet, a slow exhale, a heavy heart finally at ease. Both are sacred, both are forms of worship. The night is not about how much you do, it's about how deeply you let go. You are closest to Allah when your heart finally stops resisting and starts resting. The weight of the day may be heavy, but the mercy of the night is heavier still. Every hardship, every disappointment, every unanswered dua begins to make sense in the soft glow of divine wisdom. You realize that even your exhaustion was written with purpose. It was what led you to this stillness, to this surrender, to this peace. When dawn approaches, something within you shifts. The same heart that entered the night burden now beats with quiet strength. The world will soon wake again, but you carry something new into it: perspective. You understand now that peace isn't found in escaping life's weight, but in remembering who helps you carry it. The night, with all its silence and softness, becomes a teacher. It shows you that healing doesn't happen in a single moment, but through small acts of surrender repeated night after night. The soul is washed not once but continually until peace becomes your nature, not your pursuit. As you rise to greet a new day, you realize that the night's mercy was not just about recovery, it was about rebirth. You step into the light renewed, your heart lighter, your faith deeper. The weight of yesterday no longer defines you, the remembrance of last night does. And so every night becomes an act of divine cleansing, a sacred washing away of what no longer serves you. A reminder that Allah's mercy renews not just your body but your soul, because no matter how heavy the day, the night will always come, not to cover you in darkness but to bathe you in light. There are moments when your tongue trembles before you speak, when your heart feels too heavy to form words, but then somewhere between breath and belief, a prayer escapes and it flies. The words you whisper in those sacred moments are not lost, they ascend. Each syllable becomes a wing, carrying your hopes, fears, and love toward the one who listens without limit. What you say in faith never disappears. It soars beyond the walls of this world. When you remember Allah, your words are no longer ordinary. They carry light, power, and mercy. A single subhanallah uttered in sincerity can ripple across the unseen, reaching places you cannot imagine. Words spoken in remembrance have a life beyond this life. They are recorded, cherished, multiplied. They become bridges between your weakness and His infinite strength, between your longing and His compassion. The miracle of Dhikr is not that it changes your circumstances, but that it changes you. Each word you utter in His name polishes your heart, removes the dust of the day, and reminds you who you belong to. You begin to understand that speech, when filled with remembrance, becomes a form of worship, not because of eloquence, but because of intention. Even a whisper can move mountains in the unseen. Every time you speak to Allah, you are writing your story in the language of eternity. Your words become testimony not of perfection but of persistence. You may falter, you may repeat, you may stumble, but every utterance of Alhamdulillah or La ilaha illallah rises like a song of return. Heaven listens to hearts, not volume. It listens to the quiet voices that speak even when the world turns away. Sometimes you'll find that your most powerful prayers are not the long ones but the simple ones. Ya Allah help me, Ya Allah guide me. These words, said through tears or silence, become light in the heavens. The sincerity behind them transforms them into wings, lifting your soul higher than your words can reach. You realize that Allah doesn't need perfect speech. He responds to honest hearts. When you engage in remembrance, every word you say reshapes your inner world. Subhanallah asterisk teaches you to see beauty in everything. Alhamdulillah teaches you gratitude through pain. Allahu Akbar asterisk reminds you that your worries are never greater than your Lord. You begin to live your remembrance, not just recite it. The words you once said mindlessly now carry meaning that fills your chest with peace. Sometimes you'll speak and feel nothing. Your lips will move, but your heart will feel distant. Even then, don't stop. The wings still rise, even when you can't feel them. Faith is not always about feeling inspired. Sometimes it's about speaking truth until your soul remembers it again. Keep saying His name, through numbness, through noise, through everything, because one day it will anchor you when nothing else can. There is a moment during prayer when your words are no longer yours. They become guided, lifted by something unseen. You feel as if your tongue moves, but your heart speaks. That's when you know your remembrance has transcended routine. It has become communion, the meeting of a soul and its source. In that space, every word becomes a step toward light. Dhikr is the language of love between the servant and the Lord. It is how you say, I remember you, without needing explanation. It's how you apologize, how you ask, how you adore. Each utterance is both a confession and a reunion. Through remembrance, you are never really far. Even your smallest word of praise can open doors that endless action cannot. When your words are born from humility, they rise effortlessly. The angels carry them, wrapping them in sincerity, delivering them to the throne of the most merciful. You may not see it, but every astaghfirullah cleanses a piece of your heart. Every bismillah opens a path. Every asterisk, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, gives strength to your weary soul. The unseen is alive with the echoes of what you speak in faith. Sometimes your remembrance won't come easily. The tongue feels heavy, the mind distracted. That's when it matters most. Because every time you choose remembrance over forgetfulness, your words push through the veil of heedlessness, breaking patterns, creating light. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence, the act of returning to His name again and again until your heart learns to rest in it. When words become worship, the heart becomes light. You begin to realize that Dhikr isn't a ritual. It's a way of breathing. It's not something you schedule, it's something you live. You remember Him while working, walking, waiting, and life itself becomes an act of devotion. You see His hand in everything, and every word becomes a reflection of that awareness. Your words toward Allah don't need to be many, they just need to be sincere. A single La ilaha illallah uttered with conviction weighs more than worlds. The angels record it not for its sound, but for the love behind it. And when the world feels too heavy, that same word, simple and profound, becomes the rope that pulls you back into peace. The heart that remembers becomes like a bird, light, free, ascending. Every word of Dhikr becomes its wing. And even when that bird trembles, even when its feathers are weary, it keeps flying because it knows its direction toward Him, always toward Him. The journey of remembrance is not about arrival, it's about returning again and again with love. There's a sweetness in knowing that Allah hears you even when you whisper, even when your lips don't move, even when your prayers are made of tears instead of words. In those moments, the heart speaks a language the world doesn't understand. the language of longing, and Allah understands it perfectly. Each word of remembrance plants a seed in the unseen. Some bloom immediately, others take time, but all of them grow. Your heart, once barren from neglect, begins to flourish with light. What once felt heavy now feels holy. What once felt meaningless now feels miraculous. Because every subhanallah is not just sound, it's surrender. There's a reason the Quran was revealed in words. Words shape reality. They heal, they connect, they lift. And when your words align with remembrance, your reality aligns with peace. You become a reflection of what you speak. The more you remember Him, the more your presence itself becomes remembrance for others. The beauty of Dhikr is that it's always available. No matter where you are, no matter what you're facing, you don't need a perfect setting or perfect state. You only need sincerity. The words themselves are keys, unlocking doors between your heart and His mercy. And each time you use them, you're stepping closer to home. When words become wings toward heaven, you realize that remembrance is not a duty. It's a gift. It's how Allah allows you to reach Him without leaving where you are. You may be sitting in your room, walking in the street, lying under the stars, yet with one word, your soul ascends. That is the miracle of remembrance, the ability to touch eternity through a single breath. When you look back on all the moments you thought were small, the quiet dhikr, the whispered prayers, the unspoken gratitude, you'll realize they were never small at all. They were your wings. And through them, your soul learned to fly home. There is a sacred beauty in silence, a space where words end and understanding begins. It is in that quiet that the heart starts to listen differently, not with the ears, but with the soul. When life grows still and the noise fades away, you begin to feel something subtle yet undeniable, a pull, a closeness, a presence. That is not emptiness, that is Allah drawing you near. The world teaches us to fill every moment with sound, with movement, with distraction. But Allah teaches us through stillness. Silence is His language of intimacy. It's in the quiet that your heart finally slows down enough to hear Him. Not through speech, but through peace. Every moment of calm is a gentle reminder that connection with Him doesn't always come through words. Sometimes it comes through simply being. When silence surrounds you, you may feel alone. At first, the absence of noise can feel unsettling. Yet as the moments pass, you realize that solitude is not abandonment, it is invitation. Allah removes the crowd so you can finally sit with your own heart and with Him. You begin to see that silence is not the lack of sound, it's the presence of serenity. In silence, your heart starts to remember what it's been trying to forget. You see the things you've been avoiding, the wounds, the fears, the unmet prayers, and in seeing them, you bring them to the one who can heal them. Silence is a mirror, and Allah invites you to look deeply, not to judge what you see, but to bring it back to Him. The stillness of silence carries a softness that no words can hold. It's where Allah teaches you that faith doesn't always need noise or expression. It can exist quietly, deeply, like a flame that doesn't flicker even in the darkest room. The quieter your surroundings become, the louder His presence feels. In silence, belief takes root in its purest form, unseen yet unshakable. Sometimes Allah silences the world around you because He wants to speak directly to your soul. He removes the distractions, the endless talking, the constant doing, so you can rediscover the art of simply listening. It's not about hearing an external voice. It's about feeling the calm that comes when your heart aligns with His will. The silence that once felt empty becomes your most sacred companion. You start to crave it not out of isolation, but out of peace. It's in those quiet moments before dawn or after a long day, when your soul feels closest to its source. You no longer run from stillness, you run toward it, because now you know that's where the healing happens. In the stillness, Allah teaches you patience. The world rushes, but silence waits. It teaches you that not every prayer is answered with sound. Some are answered with calm. You begin to understand that silence is not delay, it is depth. It's Allah saying, I am working within you before I work around you. The quiet moments between prayers, between breaths, between heartbeats, those are the spaces where faith grows. You may not see it, but your heart is expanding, learning how to trust even without reassurance. Silence teaches you to believe without evidence, to love without words, and to surrender without resistance. When you embrace silence, you start to hear what the noise had hidden. You notice the rhythm of your breath, the beating of your heart, the subtle signs of mercy woven through your existence. You realize that Allah has been speaking to you all along, not through volume but through consistency. His presence is the calm beneath every chaos. Sometimes Allah quiets your life so you can rediscover gratitude. In the silence, you remember the simple blessings, the warmth of light, the stillness of night, the miracle of being alive. You start to feel that gratitude doesn't always need to be spoken. Sometimes it's felt in the peace that fills a silent heart. The beauty of silence is that it teaches you intimacy with Allah without words. You stop reciting to be heard and start whispering to be held. Your prayers no longer seek answers, they seek closeness. You realize that remembrance isn't always spoken aloud. Sometimes it's simply sitting in the quiet, knowing that He is near. In silence, the heart softens. It lets go of its arguments, its fears, its need for control. You no longer fight what's happening, you rest in it. That surrender is not weakness, it's worship. Allah draws you near, not by adding more to your life, but by removing what keeps you from feeling His peace. When the world around you grows quiet, you start to notice how much noise lived inside you. Thoughts, worries, regrets, all the inner chatter that never stopped. And yet, as you breathe, as you sit with Allah, even that begins to fade. You find a stillness inside yourself that feels familiar, as if your soul is remembering where it came from. The silence becomes your teacher. It shows you that healing doesn't come from filling the void, but from allowing the void to be filled with light. You stop trying to run from your stillness and start meeting Allah there. The peace you find in silence becomes proof that you were never alone, not for a moment. Every pause is purposeful. Every quiet season is divine. Allah writes in silence as much as He writes in storms. When He quiets your path, it's not because He stopped guiding you, it's because He's guiding you inward toward clarity, toward trust, toward Him. The world may value noise, but Allah values stillness. In the quiet, you find the kind of strength that doesn't need to be spoken, the kind that survives storms without shouting, the kind that loves without condition. It's the strength that grows only when your soul rests in His remembrance. You come to understand that silence itself is a form of deep. It's the moment between words when your heart whispers what your lips cannot. It's the peace that sits quietly in your chest after a long prayer. It's the calm that settles when you finally say, "I trust you." That silence is sacred. It's filled with divine conversation that needs no sound. And when you emerge from silence, you are never the same. You carry with you a stillness that cannot be disturbed, a calm that cannot be taken, and a closeness to Allah that words can never fully describe. The world may return to its noise, but your heart remains anchored, quiet, aware, and beautifully near to the one who called you there. So the next time your life falls silent, don't fill it, feel it. Because that stillness is not loneliness, it's love. It's Allah inviting you closer, asking for nothing but your presence. And when you answer that invitation, you'll find that silence isn't the absence of His voice. It's the space where He whispers, "Visa, you were never far from me." There's a stillness that settles over the heart the moment you remember Allah, a peace that doesn't come from the world but from the one who made it. It's not loud, it doesn't demand attention, but when it arrives, you feel it everywhere. The same mind that was restless begins to quiet. The same heart that was heavy begins to soften. This is the peace that remembrance brings, not the kind that removes all struggle, but the kind that makes the struggle sacred. When you remember Allah, something changes within you. The storms of the day may still rage outside, but they no longer reach you in the same way. It's as though remembrance builds a shelter around your soul, invisible yet impenetrable. You begin to understand that peace was never about what's happening around you. It was always about who you return to within you. The beauty of Dhikr is that it doesn't require perfection. You can come to Allah with a tired heart, trembling hands, and eyes filled with tears, and still He welcomes you. Every Subhanallah is an anchor, every Alhamdulillah a light. With each word, your heart aligns a little more with His will. The peace that descends is not accidental, it's the direct response to your remembrance. In the rush of life, we forget that the soul too has needs. Just as the body hungers for food, the heart hungers for remembrance. And when it is starved of that connection, it becomes restless, anxious, unfulfilled, lost. But the moment you turn back to Allah, even in a whisper, that hunger is met. The soul sighs in relief, as if finally remembering its home. Peace comes when you stop running from the silence. The world teaches us to escape, to distract, to numb, to fill every quiet space. But Allah calls us into stillness, not away from it. Because in that stillness, the noise of the world fades, and the voice of the heart becomes clear. And in that voice you find Him always waiting, always near. Remembrance isn't just an act, it's a return. Each time you say His name, you're not doing something new. You're remembering something ancient, something your soul has always known. It's the echo of a promise made long before this world began. That's why Dhikr feels like coming home. It's the heart remembering where it truly belongs. The peace that comes from remembrance is not passive. It transforms you, it softens your tone, slows your reactions, and fills your eyes with compassion. You begin to respond to the world differently because your heart is no longer ruled by fear or anger. It's guided by faith. This is the quiet revolution that Dhikr creates inside you. There's a verse that says, "Verily in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest." Notice that it doesn't say after remembrance or because of remembrance. It says in remembrance, meaning peace isn't the result, it's the process. The moment your lips move in His name, peace is already descending. You don't have to wait for it, you're standing inside it. Even on days when your heart feels numb, remembrance works. You might not feel the calm right away, but the angels record every word, every whisper, every sigh. Your dhikr doesn't disappear. It collects like gentle rain, watering the garden of your faith. And when the time is right, that garden blooms effortlessly, beautifully. Sometimes Allah allows the world to shake you so that you'll remember Him again, not to harm you, but to redirect you. When everything else fails to give peace, remembrance becomes your refuge. The world can take your plans, your comfort, your control, but it cannot take your connection to Him. That bond is eternal, unbreakable, and healing. There's something profoundly humbling about realizing that peace isn't something you create. It's something you don't have to chase it or force it. You only have to open your heart through remembrance, and it descends like mercy, settling quietly where chaos once lived. When you remember Allah consistently, even your worries begin to change shape. They don't vanish, but they shrink. You start to see that everything, every delay, every difficulty, every detour was part of His wisdom. And that realization brings a calm that nothing else can imitate. Because when you trust the one who controls everything, what is left to fear? Dhikr doesn't always happen in perfect moments. Sometimes it's in the middle of tears. Sometimes it's between breaths. Sometimes it's whispered through exhaustion. And yet, those are often the moments that carry the most light, because it's when the heart breaks that remembrance becomes real, when it's no longer recited but felt. Peace descends when your remembrance shifts from the tongue to the heart. It's one thing to say Allahu Akbar, it's another to feel it, to realize deep within that He truly is greater, greater than your pain, greater than your uncertainty, greater than your fears. When that truth settles in your chest, peace becomes unshakable. Every heart that remembers Allah begins to glow even if the world doesn't see it. You carry light within you in your patience, your kindness, your quiet strength. That light is the sign of remembrance alive within you. It's not visible like the sun, but it guides you through darkness just the same. The peace of remembrance doesn't erase struggle, it redefines it. You stop asking for a life without tests and start asking for a heart that stays steady through them. That's the secret. Peace is not found in escaping trials, but in facing them with remembrance, because a heart connected to Allah is never truly shaken. There's a moment after dhikr when you feel completely still, as if time itself has paused. That's the moment your heart aligns with His will. It's subtle but powerful. You're no longer fighting life, you're flowing with it. You understand that everything is written, and everything written is mercy. That realization is the essence of peace. Remembrance turns pain into purpose. It takes what once felt unbearable and transforms it into gratitude. You start to see that even heartbreak was guiding you home. Every difficulty becomes a reason to remember Him, and every remembrance becomes a reason to smile again. Because when Allah is with you, even the heaviest heart can rest. When peace descends, it doesn't come from outside, It rises from within. It's the soul whispering, Waitai, I found him again. You feel lighter, softer, whole. The noise of the world no longer reaches you because your heart is tuned to something higher, the rhythm of divine love. And so remembrance becomes not just something you do, but something you are. You carry it in your breath, in your speech, in your silence. It becomes the atmosphere of your life, gentle, steady, unshaken. Because once you've tasted the peace that descends when you remember him, you no longer chase the world. You carry heaven within you. There are words that never pass through your lips yet reach the heavens. They are the silent confessions, the unseen tears, the unspoken thoughts that your soul shares with its creator. These are the secret conversations that happen in the quiet corners of your heart, when the world is asleep, when your voice trembles, when you have nothing left but sincerity. It's there in that unseen dialogue that you meet Allah in the most intimate way. Not every prayer needs to be spoken aloud. Sometimes your silence says more than your words ever could. The sigh that escapes you after a long day, the heaviness that lingers in your chest, they all rise as prayers, translated by the heart into a language only Allah understands. You realize that He doesn't just listen to what you say, He listens to what you mean, what you feel, what you cannot explain. In those private conversations, you discover what it means to be truly known. You don't have to explain your pain, justify your sadness, or pretend to be strong. Allah already knows every ache, every fear, every hope. Yet still He invites you to speak, not because He needs to hear it, but because your soul needs to release it. Every whispered Ya Allah becomes a thread connecting your weakness to His strength. There are nights when your dua feels like it falls into silence, when you wonder if it's even reaching Him. But the truth is, every word is caught by His mercy before it leaves your tongue. He responds not always in sound, but in serenity. Sometimes the answer isn't in what changes outside you, but in what softens inside you after you speak to Him. These secret conversations aren't bound by time or place. They can happen while you're walking, crying, sitting in stillness, or driving in silence. They are the constant flow of remembrance between your soul and its Lord, the quiet awareness that He is near, always near. It's the comfort of knowing that no moment, no thought, no feeling is too small for His attention. When you speak to Allah, even in your mind, your soul straightens like a flower turning toward light. You can feel it, that shift inside. It's the peace that comes from being completely seen, without being judged. Every dua you make, every word you whisper, every tear you shed, they all become part of a sacred exchange that draws you closer to Him. The soul was created for this conversation. Long before you existed in this world, you stood before Allah and acknowledged Him as your Lord. Every time you remember Him, you're answering that ancient call again. Your dua is not new, it's a continuation of that original promise, the echo of a love story that began before time. Sometimes you speak, sometimes you only breathe, and still the conversation continues. The silence between you and Him is not empty. It's full of presence. The stillness is alive with meaning, with mercy. Even your inability to find words becomes its own form of prayer. Because the one who created language also understands the language of tears, of sighs, of hearts. In these moments, you realize that prayer is not a performance, it's a meeting. You're not coming to impress, you're coming to be embraced. There's no script, no perfection, only truth. The closer you draw to Allah, the simpler your words become. The eloquence of the soul is not found in speech, but in sincerity. When you start to speak to Him more often, your relationship with the world changes. The noise doesn't pull you as much. The praise and the criticism of people lose their weight. You begin to see life through the lens of connection, not chaos. You stop searching for understanding from those who cannot see your heart, because the one who shaped it already does. There are moments when you'll feel like you have nothing left to say, when your heart feels numb, but even then, your presence before Allah is a form of conversation. Sometimes the most powerful prayers are the ones said through tears instead of words. Silence in His presence is also speech. It's a kind of surrender that speaks louder than sentences ever could. The beauty of these secret conversations is that they never go unanswered. Every time you call, He responds, even if you don't hear it right away. Sometimes the answer comes as calm, sometimes as clarity, sometimes as change, and sometimes the answer is simply His nearness. that indescribable peace that settles when you remember who you're speaking to. When the soul speaks to its creator, time disappears. The worries of the world fade, and you feel yourself lifted, as though you're no longer on the ground but floating between the seen and the unseen. That's what dua does. It takes you from heaviness to lightness, from despair to hope, from separation to belonging. You realize that these secret conversations are not about changing Allah's will, they're about transforming your own heart. With every prayer, you grow softer, more patient, more at peace. You stop trying to control the story and start trusting the author. You no longer rush his answers because you've fallen in love with the act of asking. Every conversation leaves a trace, a fragrance on the soul. You carry it with you into your day, into your interactions, into your silence. You start walking differently, speaking differently, loving differently, because you are constantly aware that Allah is with you. His presence becomes your comfort, His remembrance your rhythm. And sometimes in the middle of your daily life, a thought of Him crosses your mind and you pause. That pause, that subtle moment of awareness, is also a conversation. It's your soul turning toward Him without words. It's as if your heart whispers, "I know you're here," and in response, the universe feels softer. These secret moments are the essence of worship, not the outward forms that people see, but the inward exchanges that only you and Allah know. They are the real prayer, the real connection, where the soul strips away all pretense and simply says, "I need you." And every time you say that, you are reminded that He has never left. What makes these conversations sacred is that they are mutual. You call and He answers. You remember and He draws near. The Quran reminds us, "So remember me, I will remember you." Imagine that. The Lord of the worlds remembering you as you remember Him. What greater intimacy could there be? When you realize that, your conversations with Him never stop. They flow through joy and grief, through silence and speech, through strength and surrender. The distance you once felt begins to fade because the truth becomes clear. You are never far from Him. Every heartbeat was an invitation, every breath a reply. And when your soul finally understands this, you stop fearing loneliness altogether, because you know that even in your quietest moments, you are in dialogue with the divine. The world may not hear it, but heaven does. These are the secret conversations, the ones that shape your destiny, heal your heart, and remind you of the love that never ends. Each night is a mercy, a quiet invitation from Allah to begin again. No matter how heavy the day was, no matter how scattered your heart became, the night comes softly, like forgiveness in the form of darkness. It wraps around you, reminding you that even the most exhausted soul can be renewed. The day may have taken much from you, but the night gives it back. Peace, clarity, stillness, and a chance to return. When the sun sets, the world slows, and with it the heart exhales. It is as if Allah is saying, "You've carried enough. Come back to me now." Every night holds within it a sacred possibility. The possibility to start over, to release what you couldn't fix, and to hand over what you can't control. It's not just the body that rests, it's the heart that finds its way home. The night is not an ending. It's renewal disguised as rest. While your body sleeps, your soul rises. It leaves behind the noise and wounds of the day and ascends toward the peace that only its creator can give. In that unseen exchange, what was once heavy becomes light, and what once felt broken begins to mend. The night is Allah's way of reminding you that healing doesn't always happen in daylight. Each night, you are given a blank page. The mistakes of the day are not your forever story. Allah erases, rewrites, and renews in ways you cannot see. When you close your eyes and whisper His name before sleep, you are saying, "I trust you with what I can't hold anymore." That trust is the beginning of rebirth. Quiet, unseen, but real. Sometimes the day leaves your heart weary from conversations, from striving, from unseen battles. But when the world grows quiet, something sacred begins. The silence of the night holds room for reflection that daylight never allows. It's in that silence that you realize how much Allah loves you, enough to pause time each evening so your heart can breathe again. Every night carries its own mercy, its own peace, its own invitation. Allah doesn't just renew the sky with stars, He renews you. He takes the pieces that feel misplaced and rearranges them in secret. What felt broken begins to glow in ways you couldn't imagine. The same heart that felt drained at sunset begins to feel hopeful by dawn. That's not coincidence, that's compassion. In the rhythm of night and day lies the rhythm of divine mercy. The rising sun is not just the start of a new day, it's proof that Allah gives you another chance to rise too. But before that light comes, there is always the night, the space between what was and what can be. The darkness is not your enemy, it's the womb of your renewal. The heart needs the night to rest, to reset, to return. When you remember Allah before sleeping, you're not just ending the day, you're beginning something timeless. The Prophet, peace be upon him, would remember Allah before closing his eyes, teaching us that every sleep can be a form of surrender, every waking a resurrection. Each night, your soul rehearses the art of returning to him. Sometimes it's not what you do in the day that shapes you most, but how you end it. The final thoughts before sleep write tomorrow's tone. If your last words are remembrance, your first breath at dawn carries light. That's the secret of renewal. It begins not with movement, but with surrender. Peace starts where resistance ends. The night is also a teacher. It teaches you to find comfort in what you cannot see, to trust that even in darkness, Allah is working. You don't need to see proof of renewal for it to be real. You only need to rest in His care. The unseen world is alive with His mercy, and every night it's rewriting your story with gentleness. You may lie awake some nights burdened by memories or mistakes, but even then that restlessness is a call. The ache you feel is not a curse, it's a reminder. It's your soul tugging at you, whispering, "There's more for you than this pain." Asterisk. When you answer that call, even with a quiet prayer, you are already beginning again. The night reminds you that nothing is permanent, not even exhaustion. The same way the sun always returns, light always finds its way back to you. Allah never leaves you in darkness forever. He lets you rest there just long enough to grow. What you think is delay is often preparation, the heart learning how to hold more peace. Every night that you remember Him, something shifts in the unseen. The angels surround you, your sins begin to fall away, and your heart begins to heal in ways you don't understand. You wake lighter, softer, calmer, not because your problems vanished, but because your perspective changed. That's the quiet miracle of remembrance before sleep. The night is a mercy even for those who spent the day forgetful. It's Allah's way of saying you can still come back. He never closes His door, even when you've closed yours. The stars themselves feel like signs, tiny lamps in the sky, reminding you that even small sparks of faith can light vast darkness. In the stillness of night, gratitude feels different. It's not loud or rushed. It's deep, personal, real. You begin to see blessings that daylight hid, the safety in your home, the warmth of breath, the chance to begin again. You realize that renewal doesn't always mean change. Sometimes it just means awareness. And awareness is where peace begins. When you look at the moon, remember this: it waxes and wanes, yet it's never truly gone. Your heart is the same. Some nights it shines brightly, other nights it hides, but even when it's unseen, it's still there, still capable of light. Allah never allows darkness without the promise of return. The night humbles you. It strips away titles, roles, and expectations until you are nothing but a soul before its Lord. And in that simplicity, you find freedom. You no longer need to pretend or perform. You can simply exist, small, sincere, surrendered. That is the truest form of strength. With every night comes a new chance to forgive yourself, others, and life itself. The heart cannot carry everything forever. It must release to renew. And forgiveness is the key that opens that door. Each time you choose mercy, you become lighter. Each time you choose remembrance, you become new. When dawn finally breaks, you realize the night was not just rest, it was rebirth. Allah wrote renewal into your design. He gives you the night not just to sleep, but to reset your soul. And each morning you rise is not just continuation, it's resurrection. Proof that His mercy didn't just meet you yesterday, it meets you again today. So as the night falls again, don't see it as darkness. See it as a beginning, an open door to peace. Lay down your worries, whisper His name, and let your heart start over. Because with every night comes a new mercy, a new forgiveness, a new chance to return. Every night, your heart is invited to begin again, and Allah is waiting to welcome it home. As the night descends once more, remember, it's not just another ending, it's an invitation. Every sunset is a divine whisper saying, you can start again. No mistake is too heavy, no day too lost, no heart too far gone for Allah's mercy to reach. The darkness you see around you isn't the absence of light. It's the space where new light is being born. Each night, as you close your eyes, imagine Allah gently erasing the heaviness of your day, replacing it with peace. The same stars that scatter across the sky are reminders that beauty still shines even in darkness. The same moon that reflects borrowed light tells your heart, you too can glow again. Your renewal is written into the rhythm of creation, to fall, to rest, to rise. So tonight, before the world fades and the silence settles, whisper your heart to Him. Speak of your gratitude, your fears, your hopes, and then let it go. Because when you hand your burdens to Allah, you are not giving up. You are giving into His care, His wisdom, His timing. The heart that surrenders before sleep wakes lighter at dawn. And when the morning comes, step into it as someone reborn. The world may look the same, but your heart won't be. It will carry the peace that was written for you in the stillness of the night. The peace that only remembrance could bring. Every night, Allah rewrites your story with mercy. Every dawn, He gives you a chance to live it differently. So breathe deeply. Rest knowing that tonight is not the end, it's your beginning. The heart that turns to Allah before sleep never truly sleeps in darkness. It sleeps beneath light, guarded by peace, and it awakens renewed, ready to walk once more toward the one who never stopped calling it home.